Let me ask you something honest. How many times have you said, I'm just not feeling motivated today? How many dreams have you postponed because the mood wasn't right? How many goals are still sitting in your mind, waiting for a version of you that feels ready? We have been trained to worship motivation. We scroll for it. We search for it. We wait for it like it's some magical force that will suddenly transform us into disciplined, unstoppable machines. But what if I told you that the very thing you are waiting for is the reason you are stuck? Motivation is comfortable. It feels goosebumps. It makes you imagine success without demanding sacrifice. But real growth does not feel like goosebumps. It feels like pressure. It feels like doubt. It feels like doubt. It feels like waking up when your body wants to sleep. It feels like working when no one is clapping. It feels like showing up when every excuse sounds reasonable. The truth is simple, and it might hurt your ego a little. You don't need more motivation. You need more discomfort. Because the life you want is not hiding behind inspiration. It is hiding behind the things you keep avoiding. The difficult conversation, the extra hour of practice, the risk of failure, the fear of looking stupid, the discipline of repetition. That is where your next level is waiting. Most people quit not because they are incapable, but because they are uncomfortable. They mistake discomfort for a sign to stop. But discomfort is not your enemy. It's proof that you are stepping into something bigger than your current self. Think about it. Every time you improved in life, it was uncomfortable at first. Learning to speak confidently, starting something new, competing, taking responsibility. At first it felt unnatural, but you survived, you grew. Now imagine if instead of running from that feeling, you started chasing it. Imagine waking up and choosing the hard option on purpose, choosing discipline over distraction, choosing growth over ease, choosing action over emotion. Not because you feel like it, but because you understand that your future is built in moments of discomfort. This is not a speech about hype. This is not about shouting louder. This is about rewiring your mindset, about realizing that waiting to feel ready is the biggest delay of your life. About understanding that the strongest version of you is built when you act without applause, without excitement, without external validation. So today, I want you to listen differently, not with the part of you that wants to feel inspired for 5 minutes, but with the part of you that is tired of staying the same. The part of you that knows you are capable of more. The part of you that is ready to trade comfort for growth. Because if you truly want to win, not just once, but consistently, then you must accept this truth. You don't need motivation. You need discomfort. Most people believe motivation is the fuel of success. They wait for it like rain in a drought. They scroll through videos, listen to speeches, read quotes, hoping to feel that sudden rush of energy that makes them say, this is it, now I'm ready. But motivation is an emotion. And emotions are unstable. They rise and fall. They are strong in the morning and disappear at night. They show up after watching a powerful video and vanish the moment real work begins. Motivation feels powerful because it is exciting. It gives you a temporary high. It makes you imagine a better future. But imagination is not transformation. Motivation can make you start, but it cannot make you continue. And success does not belong to those who start fast. It belongs to those who continue when the excitement is gone. Think about the days you felt motivated. You probably made big plans. You promised yourself you would wake up early, exercise daily, study longer, build your project, learn that skill. And maybe you did it for a few days. But then life happened. You felt tired. You felt bored. You felt distracted. And suddenly that powerful motivation disappeared. Now what? Most people stop. Because they were depending on a feeling to carry them through a process that requires discipline. This is why motivation is temporary. It depends on mood, environment, and emotion. If someone praises you, you feel motivated. If someone criticizes you, you lose it. If the weather is nice, you feel inspired. If it's uncomfortable, you delay your plans. When your progress is visible, you feel excited. When results are slow, you feel discouraged. If your drive depends on circumstances, then your growth will always be controlled by circumstance. Discomfort is different. Discomfort does not ask how you feel. It demands who you are becoming. When you choose discomfort daily, something deeper begins to change. You are no longer acting because you feel good. You are acting because you have decided who you want to be. That decision builds identity. And identity is far stronger than motivation. If you wake up at 5 a.m. only when you feel inspired, you are someone who depends on emotion. But if you wake up at 5 a.m., even when you are tired, even when it is cold, even when no one is watching, you are becoming someone disciplined. That repeated action, especially when uncomfortable, tells your brain a new story. This is who I am. And once something becomes part of your identity, it no longer requires motivation. Athletes do not train every day because they are motivated. Entrepreneurs do not work long hours because they are always inspired. Students who achieve excellence do not study because they feel like it every night. They have trained themselves to operate beyond emotion. They have built an identity through repeated discomfort. Discomfort reshapes you because it forces adaptation. When you do hard things consistently, your mind becomes stronger. When you face rejection, you become less afraid of opinions. When you struggle and survive, you gain confidence not from praise but from proof. And proof is powerful. You stop saying, I hope I can do this. You start saying, I've handled worse. Motivation talks about goals. Discomfort builds character. Goals can change, character stays. When you chase motivation, you focus on the outcome. When you embrace discomfort, you focus on the process. And the process is where transformation happens. Every uncomfortable repetition in the gym strengthens muscle. Every difficult conversation builds communication skill. Every failed attempt sharpens strategy. Every long night of practice builds mastery. None of these moments feel glamorous. None of them are exciting. But they are shaping you silently. Identity is built in silence. No one sees the early mornings. No one applauds the extra hour of study. No one celebrates the small disciplined choices you make daily. But those moments are carving a new version of you. And over time, that version becomes natural. When discomfort becomes normal, growth becomes automatic. Imagine two people, one waits for motivation to study. The other studies at a fixed time every day, regardless of mood. After 1 year, who has transformed more? The second person may not have felt inspired every day, but they built an identity. I am someone who studies consistently. That identity creates stability, and stability creates long-term success. Motivation is loud but short-lived. Discomfort is quiet but permanent. The truth is, if you only act when you feel motivated, you are training yourself to quit when things get hard. But if you act especially when you do not feel like it, you are training yourself to endure. Endurance builds resilience. Resilience builds confidence. Confidence builds leadership. And leadership builds impact. Your future is not built on your best days. It is built on the days you did not feel like showing up, but did anyway. Discomfort strengthens your emotional muscle. The more you tolerate it, the less it controls you. At first, waking up early feels painful. Speaking in public feels terrifying. Starting a business feels risky. But each time you step into that discomfort, your fear shrinks. Not because the task becomes easier, but because you become stronger. And that is the key difference. Motivation tries to make the task easier in your mind. Discomfort makes you stronger in reality. One is imagination. The other is transformation. When you understand this, you stop chasing motivational content every day. You stop asking, how do I feel? And start asking, what must be done? You stop negotiating with your comfort zone. You start expanding it. Over time, what once felt uncomfortable becomes normal. What once felt impossible becomes routine. And people around you will call you talented, lucky, gifted. They will not see the hundreds of uncomfortable moments you endured. They will only see the result of a new identity. That identity was not built in excitement. It was built in discipline. It was built in repetition. It was built in discomfort. So the real power is not in feeling motivated. The real power is in deciding who you are becoming and doing the work, especially when you do not feel like it. Motivation may help you take the first step, but discomfort builds the person who can walk the entire journey. And in the end, success does not belong to the most motivated. It belongs to the most transformed. Comfort feels safe. It feels control. It feels predictable. That is why most people protect it so fiercely. They build routines that require no risk. They stay in conversations where they are not challenged. They choose paths where failure is unlikely. And slowly, without realizing it, they build a life that is stable but stagnant. Growth does not live there. Growth exists in uncertainty. It lives in moments when your heart beats faster because you are not sure what will happen next. It lives in rooms where you are not the smartest person. It lives in projects where success is not guaranteed. It lives in the gap between who you are and who you could become. Comfort maintains. Discomfort expands. When you stay inside your comfort zone, you repeat what you already know. You use the same skills, the same habits, the same thinking patterns. There is no demand to improve because nothing is pushing you. And without pressure, there is no adaptation. The human mind and body grows stronger only when challenged. Muscles grow when they are stretched beyond their limit. Intelligence grows when it wrestles with complex problems. Confidence grows when it survives fear. If everything feels easy, nothing is changing. Think about learning a new skill. Shouldn't be awkward. Your movements are clumsy. Your understanding is shallow. You make mistakes constantly. That discomfort is not a sign you are incapable. It is a sign you are stretching. If you quit at that stage because it feels uncomfortable, you never reach mastery. But if you stay with that uncomfortable feeling long enough, your brain rewires itself. What once felt impossible becomes manageable. What once felt stressful becomes normal. That transition only happens outside comfort. Most people misunderstand discomfort. They interpret it as danger. They assume that something feels hard or embarrassing. It means they should stop. But discomfort is not a warning sign of failure. It is a signal of growth in progress. When you speak in front of an audience and your hands shake, that is growth. When you apply for an opportunity that feels beyond your level, that is growth. When you start a business without certainty, that is growth. When you admit you do not know something and choose to learn, that is growth. Growth requires vulnerability. Inside your comfort zone, your identity is protected. You already know how to expect. There's no risk of looking foolish. But outside your comfort zone, your ego is tested. You may fail publicly. You may receive criticism. You may experience rejection. And that is exactly why growth happens then. Because when your ego is challenged, you are forced to evolve. Every breakthrough in history happened because someone stepped into discomfort. Innovation does not come from repeating safe ideas. Leadership does not emerge from following the crowd. Strength does not develop from avoiding resistance. The very nature of progress demands friction. Imagine two paths. One is smooth, familiar, and easy to walk. The other is steep, uncertain, and full of obstacles. Most people choose the smooth path because it feels good in the moment. But that path leads to the same destination everyone else reaches. The steep path is uncomfortable, but it leads somewhere different, somewhere higher, somewhere few are willing to climb. Your results reflect the path you choose repeatedly. If you want average results, stay comfortable. If you want extraordinary results, prepare to feel uncomfortable regularly. Not occasionally, regularly. Because growth is not a one-time event. It is a continuous process of stepping beyond what feels natural. The problem is that comfort is addictive. The more you stay in it, the smaller your world becomes. Your tolerance for risk decreases, your fear of failure increases. You begin to overthink small challenges because you are no longer used to difficulty. But when you train yourself to face discomfort daily, your tolerance expands. Challenges that once intimidated you start to feel normal. Confidence is built this way. Confidence is not built by winning only easy battles. It is built by surviving difficult ones. When you handle situations that once scared you, you gather evidence of your capability. That evidence becomes internal strength, and that strength allows you to take even bigger risks. This cycle continues, pushing you further each time. Comfort keeps your potential hidden. Discomfort reveals it. There are abilities inside you that will never appear unless you are forced to use them. Leadership emerges in crisis. Creativity emerges in limitation. Courage emerges in fear. If you design your life to avoid all discomfort, you will never discover these parts of yourself. The irony is that the discomfort you avoid today becomes regret tomorrow. The opportunity you were too afraid to pursue becomes a what if. The skill you were too uncomfortable to practice becomes a weakness you carry for years. Avoiding short-term discomfort often creates long-term dissatisfaction. On the other hand, embracing short-term discomfort creates long-term expansion. When you choose the harder workout, your body grows stronger. When you choose the harder subject, your mind grows sharper. When you choose the harder conversation, your relationships grow deeper. When you choose the harder decision, your character grows firmer. It is not about suffering endlessly. It is about intentional discomfort. Choosing challenges that stretch you. Placing yourself in environments that demand more from you. Surrounding yourself with people who are ahead of you. Setting goals that scare you slightly. Each of these actions pushes the boundary of your comfort zone outward. Over time, what once felt uncomfortable becomes your new normal. And that is the secret. Growth is not about jumping from zero to extreme overnight. It is about repeatedly stepping just beyond what feels safe. Each step expands your range. Each expansion unlocks new possibility. If you look at your life and everything feels easy, predictable, and safe, you are not growing. Growth has a texture. It feels like doubt. It feels like stretching. But within that stretch is transformation. The question is not whether discomfort will appear in your life. It will. The question is whether you will choose it strategically or avoid it until life forces it upon you. When you choose your discomfort, you control your growth. When you avoid it, circumstances choose for you. So if you truly want to improve, stop asking how to stay comfortable while achieving big goals. Big goals require a bigger version of you. And that version is built only when you step outside the familiar. Everything you want is on the other side of comfort. Not because comfort is wrong, but because comfort maintains who you already are, and growth demands that you become someone more. If you want more strength, more skill, more impact, more success, then understand this clearly. Growth only lives outside comfort. Most people see pain as a stop sign. The moment something hurts, emotionally or mentally, they assume they are going in the wrong direction, they retreat. They protect themselves. But what if pain is not a signal to stop? What if it is a signal to pay attention? Pain is a teacher. And like every great teacher, it does not speak gently. It speaks clearly. When you fail, it hurts. When you're rejected, it hurts. When you're criticized, embarrassed, or misunderstood, it hurts. But inside that pain is information. Failure tells you what does not work. Rejection tells you where you need improvement or redirection. Criticism reveals blind spots. Embarrassment exposes weakness in preparation. Every painful experience carries a lesson wrapped in discomfort. The problem is not pain itself. The problem is our relationship with it. From a young age, most people are conditioned to avoid discomfort. Avoid mistakes. Avoid losing. Avoid looking foolish. Avoid rejection. So when pain arrives, they interpret it as proof of inadequacy. You failed, so must not be good enough. I was rejected, so I must not be worthy. This interpretation turns pain into an enemy. But pain is not attacking you, it is shaping you. Think about physical training. When you lift weights, your muscles experience stress. Tiny tears form in the fibers. That process is uncomfortable, sometimes painful. But that pain is not damage, it is development. When the muscle repairs itself, it becomes stronger than before. Without that stress, there is no growth. The same principle applies to your mind and character. When you attempt something difficult and fail, your ego takes a hit. It feels uncomfortable because your current ability does not match your ambition. But that gap is necessary. It forces you to analyze, adjust, and improve. If you never felt the pain of failure, you would never refine your strategy. You would stay average because nothing would push you to evolve. Rejection works the same way. When someone says no, whether in business, relationships, or opportunities, it feels personal. It challenges your confidence. But rejection teaches resilience. It teaches you that your worth is not defined by a single opinion. It strengthens your emotional stability. The more rejection you survive, the less power it has over you. Pain builds emotional endurance. There's a reason people who have struggled often carry deeper wisdom. They have been tested. They have faced loss, setbacks, disappointments. And through those experiences, they develop patience, perspective, and strength. Comfort rarely produces depth. Struggle does. Pain also builds humility. Success can inflate the ego. Constant wins can create arrogance. But failure reminds you that you are still learning. It keeps you grounded. It forces you to remain a student. And the moment you stop being a student growing, every painful mistake contains feedback. If you remove emotion and look at it objectively, you will see patterns. Maybe you were unprepared. Maybe you rushed. Maybe you lacked skill. Maybe you ignored advice. Pain highlights weaknesses that comfort hides. Once weaknesses are visible, they can be corrected. If you avoid pain, you avoid feedback. And without feedback, improvement becomes impossible. Consider the fear of embarrassment. Many people avoid speaking up, sharing ideas, or trying new things because they fear looking foolish. But embarrassment is simply exposure of inexperience. When you allow yourself to look inexperienced, you open the door to learning. The pain of embarrassment lasts minutes. The skill you gain can last a lifetime. The same applies to criticism. Not all criticism is fair, but even unfair criticism can teach emotional control. Instead of reacting defensively, you can ask, is there any truth here? Yes, improve. If no, strengthen your composure. Either way you grow. Pain tests your character. It reveals how you respond under pressure. Do you blame others? Do you quit? Or do you reflect and adapt? The response determines your future. The strongest individuals are not those who never experienced pain. They are those who processed it correctly. They did not let it turn into bitterness. They converted it into fuel. They asked, what is this teaching me? Instead of, why is this happening to me? That shift in perspective changes everything. When pain becomes a teacher, fear loses its control. You no longer avoid challenges because you understand that even if you fail, you will gain knowledge. Even if you lose, you will gain experience. And experience is an asset. It cannot be taken from you. Pain also builds self-awareness. During struggle, you discover your limits, and then you discover you can go beyond them. You learn how you react to stress. You learn where you need discipline. You learn what truly matters to you. Comfort rarely forces such reflection. Some of the most defining moments in life come from painful experiences. A business collapse teaches financial wisdom. A broken relationship teaches emotional maturity. A public failure teaches preparation and resilience. In the moment, these experiences feel devastating. But years later, many people say, that was the moment that changed me. Why? Because pain interrupts complacency. It forces you to pause, to think, to reassess your direction. Without that interruption, you might continue on a path that limits your potential. Pain redirects you toward growth. There is also strength in surviving hardship. When you endure difficulty and come out stronger, your confidence becomes unshakable. Not because you believe nothing bad will happen, but because you know you can handle if it does. That kind of confidence cannot be built through comfort. It is earned through struggle. Avoiding pain might give you temporary relief, but it often creates long-term weakness. Facing pain might create temporary discomfort, but it builds long-term strength. The key is not to seek unnecessary suffering. It is to stop running from the necessary kind. Challenges will come whether you invite them or not. The difference is whether you see them as enemies or instructors. Every time you fall and stand back up, you prove something to yourself. Every time you face rejection and continue forward, you strengthen your resilience. Every time you accept feedback and improve, you sharpen your edge. Pain is not there to destroy you. It is there to refine you. Steel is shaped by intense heat. Diamonds are formed under extreme pressure. Human character is built through adversity. Without that pressure, potential remains raw and undeveloped. So the next time you experience failure, rejection, or struggle, resist the urge to escape immediately. Sit with it. Analyze it. Extract the lesson, ask what it is trying to teach you. Because hidden inside that discomfort is growth waiting to happen. Pain is temporary, but the strength it builds can last forever. And when you begin to understand this, you stop fearing struggle. You start respecting it. You recognize that every challenge is an opportunity in disguise. Not comfortable, not easy, but necessary. Pain is not your enemy. It is your most honest teacher. Most people live according to how they feel. If they feel energized, they work hard. If they feel tired, they slow down. If they feel inspired, they take action. If they feel bored, they procrastinate. Their productivity rises and falls with their emotions. The problem is simple. Emotions are unstable. They change daily, sometimes hourly. If your actions depend on emotion, your results will always be inconsistent. Consistency, on the other hand, does not negotiate with emotion. Consistency is the decision to act regardless of mood. It is showing up on the days you feel weak. It is working when you are motivated and working when you are not. It is repeating the right actions so many times that they become automatic. Emotion is temporary. Consistency compounds. Imagine someone who only studies when they feel motivated. In 1 week, they may study intensely for 2 days and then skip 3. The following week, they may do even less. Their effort is unpredictable. Now imagine someone who studies 2 hours every single day at the same time, no matter how they feel. At the end of 1 month, who has progressed more? The second person may not have had dramatic bursts of inspiration, but their steady effort produces steady growth. Consistency creates momentum, and momentum creates results. The reason consistency is powerful is because success is rarely the result of one big action. It is the result of many small actions repeated over time. One workout does not transform a body. One day of discipline does not build a strong mind. One speech does not create influence. But repeated effort over months and years reshapes identity, skill, and reputation. Emotion pushes you to start. Consistency ensures you finish. There will always be days when you do not feel like doing the work. Days when distractions seem more attractive. Days when doubt whispers that your effort is pointless. If you rely on emotion in those moments, you will stop. And stopping repeatedly destroys progress. But if you train yourself to act despite emotion, you build inner strength. Acting without feeling like it is a form of power. It means you are no longer controlled by temporary state. It means you have decided that your goals matter more than your comfort. This shift changes everything. You stop asking, do I feel like it? And start asking, is it necessary? That simple change separates those who dream from those who achieve. Consistency also builds trust with yourself. Every time you promise to do something and follow through, you strengthen your self-belief. Every time you break your promise because you are not in the mood, you weaken it. Over time, this creates a powerful difference. A consistent person trusts their own word. An inconsistent person doubts themselves. Self-trust is the foundation of confidence. When you know you will show up no matter what, fear loses its intensity. Challenges feel manageable because you have proven to yourself that you do not quit easily. This proof is built through repetition, not dramatic moments, not emotional speeches, just quiet daily discipline. There is also a psychological advantage to consistency. When you repeat an action regularly, it becomes a habit. Habits require less mental energy than decisions. If you decide every day whether to work out, you give emotion a chance to interfere. But if working out is simply what you do at a certain time, the decision is removed. It becomes automatic. Automation reduces resistance. The most successful people are not constantly debating with themselves. They have structured their lives around consistent routines. They understand that willpower is limited. So instead of relying on it daily, they build systems that make discipline easier. Consistency may not look impressive in the short term. It often feels boring. Repeating the same effort daily lacks excitement, but boredom is part of mastery. Those who succeed are willing to perform basic actions repeatedly without applause. Emotion seeks excitement. Consistency accepts monotony. And inside that monotony is transformation. Think about compound interest in finance. Small investments may consistently grow into significant wealth over time. The same principle applies to effort. Small daily improvements compound into major achievements. But if you interrupt the process repeatedly, the compounding effect weakens. Inconsistency resets progress. Every time you stop and restart, you lose rhythm. You lose momentum. You waste time rebuilding what could have been maintained. This is why acting only when motivated is dangerous. Motivation fluctuates, and each fluctuation interrupts growth. Consistency protects progress. It keeps you moving forward even when progress feels slow. And slow progress is still progress. Many people quit because results are not immediate. They expect visible change after a short period. When they do not see it, their emotions shift from excitement to frustration, and they stop. But growth often happens invisibly at first. Skills improve beneath the surface. Strength builds gradually. Knowledge accumulates quietly. If you remain consistent, results eventually become visible. If you quit early, you never reach that stage. There is also strength and discipline during adversity. When life becomes difficult, emotion becomes even more unstable. Stress, fatigue, and uncertainty can drain motivation completely. In those moments, consistency becomes your anchor. It provides structure when everything else feels chaotic. Even if you reduce intensity, maintaining the habit keeps you connected to your goal. This is important. Consistency does not mean perfection. It means persistence. It means refusing to disappear completely. Even on your worst days, doing something small maintains momentum. That small action reinforces identity. Identity is shaped by repeated behavior. If you consistently write, you become a writer. If you consistently train, you become disciplined. If you consistently learn, you become knowledgeable. Identity is not declared. It is demonstrated through repetition. When your identity is rooted in consistent action, emotion becomes secondary. You no longer depend on feeling confident to act confident. You act confidently and the feeling follows. You no longer wait to feel productive. You begin working and productivity builds. Action creates emotion more reliably than emotion creates action. This understanding gives you control. Instead of waiting for the right mood, you create it through movement. Instead of hoping for inspiration, you build discipline. Consistency may not be glamorous, but it is powerful. It turns ordinary effort into extraordinary results. It transforms potential into performance. It builds resilience, self-trust, and mastery. In the end, the difference between those who achieve and those who talk about achieving is rarely talent on the coup. It is rarely luck. It is the ability to continue when the excitement fades. Emotion is a spark. Consistency is the engine. And engines, not sparks, carry you across long distances. If you truly want success, stop chasing motivation. Build routines, build habits, build systems, show up repeatedly. Let your actions become predictable, even when your feelings are not. Because success does not reward intensity alone. It rewards endurance. And endurance is built through consistency. So now you have a choice. You can walk away from this moment and go back to waiting. Waiting for the right moment. Waiting for the right time. Waiting for confidence to magically appear. Waiting for life to become easier. Or you can decide that from this point forward, you will stop negotiating with comfort. Because the truth is, nothing extraordinary is waiting inside your comfort zone. Your comfort zone is designed to protect who you are today. But your goals require a different version of you. A stronger version, a more disciplined version,